Howdy, and welcome to You've Got People Problems, the podcast where we tackle the leadership challenges that no one wants to talk about, but every business faces. I'm your host, Melissa Ortiz with Activate Human Capital Group, and this is episode 17. Today's guest is Amy Morin, an entrepreneur who scaled her business from scratch to $40 million in revenue, operating across multiple states. After navigating the highs, lows, and chaos of rapid growth, she successfully exited the business and now helps other entrepreneurs do the same. In this episode, we're talking about something we haven't tackled on the podcast yet, the people problems inside of sales. Because sales isn't a department, it's the oxygen for your business. And as Amy says, no sales, no oxygen. We'll break down where sales problems actually start, how people directly impact revenue, and what leaders can do to get their teams aligned around growth. This one's packed with real stories, great takeaways, and a ton of clarity for anyone trying to grow the right way. So let's get to it. So let's dive in. Welcome, Amy.
Thanks, Melissa. It's great to be here.
Thank you for being here. I think this is going to be a fun discussion. Our topic today is growth is a team sport and why we're all in sales. And I think that's we haven't really talked at all on the podcast yet about the people problems related to sales and how sales is beyond this silo of a department. So I'm looking forward to tips and tricks and how to think about this problem differently because no money, no mission, right?
That's exactly right. As I tell clients and prospective clients, without sales, there is no oxygen in your business. You have to have some oxygen there.
I'm going to say that again because I love the way you phrase that. Without sales, there's no oxygen in your business.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about your business from a body perspective, right? And EOS is the bones and the framework and that kind of stuff. Sales is the oxygen part that your body needs. And it's the same thing in business. It's what your business
Yeah,
needs
amazing.
there.
So
Yeah.
people problems as they relate to sales. What do you see both in your EOS practice and in your Outgrow work that really suck that oxygen out of the business? Tell me a little bit
That
about
suck
that.
it out or bring it in.
Suck it out. These are
Oh,
people
yes.
problems. Where does it go wrong? And
Yeah.
then we can go solve those problems.
Yeah. What sucks the oxygen or the sales, the revenue out of a business is stagnation, right? So stagnation comes in the form of many different ways, including people. And so the way that that I end up seeing it from a people issue is that they just, I hate to use an old term, but the quiet quitting old term, right? And they just do the bare minimum to get by in the seat that they sit in, and without thinking about how they can continue in their seat to bring value, we stagnate. So
The quiet, I've been doing employee engagement work for 18 years, and it was so funny to me when the quiet quitter came out, because what a great tagline, But
yeah,
we've been talking about employees who are just not engaged, who are apathetic, who are retired on active duty for so long. And I loved the fact that there came a term people could yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
yeah,
And it really does, because if you think about a high performer, especially in sales, but really, I think across the organization, and you're surrounded by people, or even have one or two people on your team that are just doing enough to get by,
yeah,
it's massively demotivating, and it takes away the desire for that extra discretionary effort that we're always
yeah,
working so hard to build on the engagement front, that EOS really starts to tackle with some of the issues lists and things that we pursue there. So that's a
yeah.
huge watch out for, I think.
Melissa, and correct me if I'm wrong, like what you're seeing, but demotivating is not only, it's almost like the cancer in the room, right? I mean, it metastasizes throughout the rest of the organization. So you've got one person who is demotivated in the seat that they're sitting in, and then it just kind of infiltrates through the rest of the company silently,
It's
and
contagious.
yeah,
Absolutely. I
yeah,
think from a human nature perspective, you look around, you go, well, he's not working very hard and she's not. Why am I busting my butt? They're getting
right,
things done like shopping for kids' birthday presents online and all these things at work that I do at home on my own time. Maybe I
right.
should be doing that at work too. And I think it's really, as a business owner, one of the things that's really tempting is, God, the idea of terminating someone who is getting the work done. They're doing enough. Quiet quitting is usually about doing enough to get by, doing just enough to not get fired.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so we're doing this trade of days for dollars. And often business owners don't know how to either free up that person's future or double down on their accountability, support, coaching. And so
Yeah.
they do nothing. And I think that's
Yeah.
the biggest frustration that I see is we see owners and business managers settling for enough
Yeah.
because it feels hard. And, as I think about our topic around growth as a team sport,
Hmm.
how do we help everyone see that we're all in sales
Yeah.
and we're all responsible for understanding how our seats, how our responsibilities tie to the broader organizational mission, how it ties to customer success and the success of our own career growth. And I think that's something that I've really admired about the Outgrow method that you're helping clients implement is it ties all those pieces together and helps people understand. Like one of our pieces of our employee engagement survey is my manager helps me understand why my job is important. And
Yep.
that's a piece of what you're really tackling in the culture mindset shift. You want to talk a
It
little bit about
is.
that?
It is. So, there are many sales training programs out there, but Outgrow is all about sales doing. It's not about training, right? It's about doing the activities, the actions to help you grow your company 15 to 30%. And most of that, Melissa, is coming through gaining market share. Right. So it's easy to grow if you increase your prices, right? You just automatically grow like that, which isn't always possible. And at some point, you are going to hit a ceiling there as well. But so gaining market share, right? And so going into a company and changing the culture that everybody in the organization who is client facing has some sort of interaction with the client can engage in conversation to just gauge interest. Again, a lot of our culture in companies is, hey, we're just transactional. Let's hurry up and get this transaction done and move on to the next one. Well, Outgrow changes the culture to be we're more transformative, right? We want to transform the clients that we already have and help them more. And so I go into companies and help, the employees who are client facing see that the value that they bring to the customers and the clients is how much it's appreciated from those clients.
So here's what that brings to mind for me. So I'm thinking about one of our core values at Activate is meet them where they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And I think about that from a sales strategy. And so often, say my project manager, Jennifer, is much more likely to be able to meet them where they are in terms of other product offerings as they're going through frustrations and going through projects. It's like, hey, you may have to talk to Mel or look into this other offering that we have because that might actually address this thing that we're working on now.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking about seeing low results in the expectations of my role are clear to me and thinking about our role review product that really helps deepen total clarity for both the individual and their manager and make sure those are aligned about what am I supposed to be doing here.
Mhm.
And so that's what that really brings up for me is Jennifer is by no means a salesperson. Oh my God, she'd roll over if I phrased it to her that way, but she knows that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring more benefit to them and their teams and make life easier to do work when we have engaged people who are in the right seats and clear on what work they're trying to deliver on. So
Yeah,
I think there's a
you
lot of
just brought up a
alignment.
great point there. Sometimes when I go into organizations, not everybody in the company knows actually all the product offerings, right? The salespeople know, the dedicated sales team, but wouldn't it be awesome if the rest of the company knew what product offerings that we have? So when you are engaged in a conversation, you can offer, hey, did you know we also sell that service. So we offer that service. You're already here. We can help you with that. Or we're already delivering product to you. Do you want us to add that to your order?
I think that is probably, I mean, it's got to be symptomatic of large businesses and small. They're on the
Mhm.
move, especially as we gain complexity. How do we take time to pause and make sure everybody knows what we have to offer so they do have that ability to bring it up in the right moment?
Yeah.
Any good examples of clients you've worked with that's really taken hold?
Yeah, so I've got a manufacturing or facilities maintenance company. They have a manufacturing side, but they're also facility maintenance up in Seattle, Washington. And that is exactly right. They've got route sales reps that are running all over the place who tend to know what products they have, but they also have a whole back office, inside sales support team that doesn't know all those product offerings. And so to go into that company and educate them and share all that. And so whenever a client is calling in, it's just engaging in a great conversation. Hey, how was that last order that we delivered to you? Were you satisfied with it? What else are you looking at buying from another client or a competitor, maybe? What are
Yeah.
you buying from another supplier that we can help you with?
Huh. That's interesting. I have that makes me think about a guy in my EO group that one of the expectations of his technicians, his electricians that are on site is they're
Yeah,
not allowed to leave until they have asked for a Google review because it's so regional and so
yeah,
specific when people are searching they realize they're in sales too. And even though they're the electricians on site doing the work,
yeah.
they're the technical experts, but
Yeah.
also they're there to help the business grow so they have more opportunities for themselves and their families. And I love that culture shift that he's been able to affect in his organization by saying, look, we're in this together. We're all wearing the
Yeah.
same jersey.
Yeah, that's right. But here's the thing. Here's what holds people back from having those conversations. It is fear, right? They
Tell
don't
me
want
about
to
that. What are we afraid
yeah,
of?
yeah. So, if you and I were working, if I was an electrician visiting your house, Melissa, and I said, hey, would you leave a Google review? I may be hesitant to ask for that if I fear you're going to say no, right? We as a human being species do not like rejection, right? We love to be part of a group. We love to be liked. We love to be involved, engaged, and all that kind of stuff. And so to get over the element of fear that's holding us back, that's a lot of the work that we do in Outgrow. Because as I said, I've said in the past, you cannot outsell a fearful mindset, right? Discipline comes after we are confident in what we're doing, engaging in a conversation. So, when I first enter a company and start working with clients on Outgrow and creating that sales culture with everybody, it's all about first helping the mindset shift and showing the frontline staff how valuable they are in the organization and how valuable what they're delivering to their clients, what that value looks like to their clients.
So I'm hearing you say really establishing the value of the individual and the value of products and services,
Right.
transitioning
So
that
here,
to get to that mindset.
I mean, continuing this circle, this life cycle of people quiet quitting in an organization. So suddenly, if I feel like I have value in the organization, I'm going to be less likely to quiet quit. Right? People check out because they just don't see the value that they bring. It's kind
Yeah.
of blasé, right?
Yeah. It's really interesting. I was working on this a little bit of a different thread, but it's always interesting to me when we think about that. My manager makes me feel my job is important. It's such a huge component for unlocking discretionary
Yes.
effort, the above
Yep.
and beyond the very minimum that we pay you for. I was working with a school district and we were talking with the teachers. We looked at their separate scorecard and they were saying that this item was low. In their data said that. They didn't say it verbally. Their data said
Yeah.
it. And we were probing about what does that mean? We knew we had a challenging principal at that site. And so we
Yeah.
kind of had some expectations where this might be going. And we were blown away. We were in totally the wrong zone. They said, we don't think the board cares about what we do. They don't know the importance of our role. They don't make us feel that they see that.
Yeah.
And the board responded to that by doing a huge push for Teacher Appreciation Week and made it really Staff Appreciation Week about every janitor, every bus driver is contributing to these kids' overall health and well-being, their ability to learn. And that classroom teacher is the absolute linchpin of all that.
Yeah.
And it was amazing the surge in results the next go around because the teachers heard loud and clear, like the board members were at the door as teachers were coming in, handing me these little thank you notes and just saying, thank you for all that you do. I know
Nice.
your job isn't easy. And
Yeah.
the fact that we were so far off on what we thought we'd hear and we would actually hear in terms of that ability, that teacher's ability to feel appreciated and lean into their role, it's
Yeah.
amazing what a few free words of appreciation will do in the I feel valued as an individual component. If we come back to those two, I feel that products and services we deliver, and I feel that I'm an important part of this overall contribution.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. So one of my clients is a law firm in Vancouver, Washington, and one of the very first things I do in the in our Outgrow engagement is ask to interview their top clients. And this is a law firm, so there's a lot of confidentiality, right? So they gave me 5 clients to call, and so I do about a 20 to 30 minute interview with their clients and ask a ton of questions. And those questions are related around the value that this law firm and their engagement with them has brought to this client. And they're life changing. They really are. This happens to be their the specialty of this law firm is caring for individuals with oftentimes with disabilities, right? So it's estate
Okay.
planning and that kind of stuff. So it's really legacy work. And so, as we're doing this interview, and then I go on and I share these interviews with the team, right? Everybody who's client facing in the organization. So, again, you've got, like engineers are like, I'm not salespeople. I don't want to sell. Well, the same thing with attorneys. Attorneys want to practice law. They don't want to so-called sell, right? But as I'm sharing all of these great things, that the impact that this law firm is making in these people's lives and legacies and futures, the visionary said, you know what? If we never actually did outgrow, what this has taught us has been incredible. Like, this part of the program is worth its weight in gold. Because we don't
I
often hear that as business owners and founders, right? Who do we get calls from? We get calls from people who are upset. Oh, our product wasn't delivered, our service wasn't done on time, and whatever it happens to
The
be,
person I
right?
interacted with was a total jerk. They were having a bad day. Yeah,
Yeah,
endless people problems in there. But the thing I'm really hearing you say is so often the recommendation to businesses is, get your ideal target customer profile created and talk to your best customers, find out what you're doing. But I don't think often enough we're going to that next level to sell those
right.
impacts into our team to help everybody hear and feel that gratitude and the impact of the work that they're doing every day. Because it's very seldom the salesperson who's making that impact, right? It's
That's
service delivery, product
exactly
delivery.
Exactly right. Yeah. So it's just a motivator among all staff. Okay. So now we've built confidence, right? We've built confidence in the staff, which is great. Now they're willing to engage more. They're actually willing to get into more questions. They become optimistic as they are engaging in these conversations and bringing more value because they heard it. They didn't hear it just from you, the owner, founder, manager, whatever it happens to be. They're hearing it from the clients. They become positive and they become enthusiastic. And so you've got this culture now all around these 4 incredible qualities that are removing the fear of selling, so to speak.
Okay, so that's the mindset we were really talking about before we jumped
Yeah,
on the podcast
yeah.
was about how do we transition that. And so it sounds like it's a hurdle we need to cross. We just have to basically sell our own people so they can become brand ambassadors, which then changes this from we have sales and we have everyone else to we all have a role in sharing with clients that we're doing awesome work.
Yeah, and I may even change the word there. Instead of saying I would sell my own people, I would just say infuse them,
Oh, I
right,
love that.
with positivity and confidence.
Fuse, play, confidence. I love that. I'm writing this down for our summary when we get to the end. It's like, okay, what do we really take out of this? What are some things we can do? What are some ideas we can take away? And
One of the greatest, the work with Outgrow, it's just so positive. It's uplifting. It's on the EOS side, not that EOS is not positive, it is, and you're changing lives in EOS, but you're having to slog through a lot of challenges in the business when you're in the process of implementing EOS with a company, right? I mean, there's a lot of pain points that you're breaking through. Outgrow is so much fun, and it's so positive to be working with people on those mindset shifts.
Who doesn't want to hear about employee compliments and
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. What about when you encounter, if you go down this path, and maybe this hasn't happened to you yet, but you go down this path and a company says, we don't have an industry that we're really specialized in. We, how do you help them define what's the ideal client that you should be interviewing on their behalf? And does it need to be an external person, or could it be the CEO? Could it be the head of sales?
Yeah, so it can anybody, right, can interview somebody internally. What happens from an external perspective is the client's their customer is willing to say more to me than they are to them, oftentimes,
Found that as
right?
well.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the value there for sure. Um, uh, from an industry standpoint, they've already got clients, though. I mean, it doesn't really matter their industry at all. It's, as long as they already have clients and they already have service offerings. If you've got those two things, Outgrow is going to work.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
do you define the clients that are interviewed by, I'm guessing some mix of high value revenue. I really like working with them. I want to do more work like this. Am I on the right track there?
They pick my client picks who they want me to speak to,
Hmm.
and what I ask is, give me your happiest clients. The clients who love you. That's who I want to talk to, because
Okay.
we're trying to instill infuse the rest of the organization with how much value you do already bring to your clients, and how much they want to do business with you and they like doing business with you.
So we're not even trying to change what we do or how we do it. We're just trying to highlight what are the wins and
Yeah.
how do we get everybody clear on how those are affecting downstream, our clients, their
Yes.
worlds. Um, okay. Love that. What else have we not talked about as it relates to sales, growth of an organization, crossing some chasms in terms of people frustrations that might slow us down?
So I think in order to grow, right, if your company is growing, let's call it 20 to 30%, right? Because on average, it's 15 to 30%. So the middle ground is going to be a minimum of 20% there.
Yeah.
You got to have the right structure in place in order to accept that growth. A lot of companies aren't ready for that. And so the right structure and the right people. So just, know that's coming down the pipeline, right? If
Yeah.
I'm growing 20% year over year, not because I've increased the rate, the cost of my product, but that I'm actually selling more,
Doing more
there's
work.
going to be implications across the rest of the organization from that. And those are awesome ceilings to hit. I mean, I want my clients to hit those ceilings, but make sure you've got a plan in place for getting through that.
Yeah.
And your people are prepared to get through that.
Yeah. And then you have the right people in those seats. I was talking with a client
Yeah.
the other day that they're growing. They're in the manufacturing space. They were ready to add another quality control person.
Yeah.
And they're a predictive index client of mine. So they've got an
Okay.
EEOC compliant way to evaluate ideal candidate is our target. And then here's these candidates that we're evaluating. And we were looking at someone who had a lot of quality control experience, but his detail orientation and precise personality, which is kind of
Yeah.
non-negotiable. Lots of other pieces of their personality are negotiable. In
Yeah.
quality control, if you are not anal, I don't really want to pay you to inspect things that might cost. I think their products sometimes cost 500,000 just to ship. These are huge products
Oh,
for the
yeah.
oil fields. And we were looking at one candidate that had a lot of quality control experience. And I was saying, I've got some red flags here. This person is not naturally just anal to the point that we need them to be. And if we get a huge product on site and it doesn't work, that is going to cost us so much in terms of profitability and
Yeah.
pain and reputation. I
Yep.
said, there's a good reason that this is a major cautionary fit here, regardless
Yeah.
of their experience and potential culture fit. And
Yep.
so that's some of the elements I think as we grow, we've got to be really cautious of just taking resume and culture fit as the only element of potential success in role as we're bringing new team members on. Have you seen
Yeah.
that play out?
Oh, for sure, right? It's yes, resume and culture fit, but it got to be, you have to excel in the seat you're sitting in too. And if that seat requires, in this instance, this example, you to be very detail oriented, you have to GWC that seat from all perspectives for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for anybody who's not running on EOS, GWC is they get it. Do they just intuitively understand what the role means? Do they want
Yep.
it? Is this something they're kind of drawn to? They like these we all want to solve problems professionally that we're good at solving.
Yeah.
And do they have the capacity? And correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, the capacity one is probably the most changeable. I can develop you and support you and grow you, but I can't change the want it capacity
Yeah.
much.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, we'd want to hire a position that says yes, yes, yes to all three of those, right? Get it, want, and have the capacity to do it. But if you've got somebody already in the organization who is a good cultural fit, um, uh, and yet we've coached them enough on the capacity side that they still are not sitting in the right seat. If there's another seat in the organization, move them. I was in Oregon with a client. I came back last night, and they have a person who's been in the organization a long time, and she is, sitting in the wrong seat. And it came out that there's a culture fit wrong, the core values fit as well issue. And her direct report, or her supervisor, sits on the leadership team. So all of this came out yesterday at this session, right when we were in the IDS portion of our time together. And it is very easy, if you are supervisor of somebody, for you to tolerate or be complacent with, hey, this person's not the right person sitting in the right seat, but I've figured an end around to deal with this. But
Yeah.
yet, what you don't realize in that end around is that it is affecting the rest of the company. And that's really what came out, at this session yesterday, is the rest of the leadership team was willing to say, yes, and here, and yes, and this, right? And this position happened to be an HR seat. You cannot have somebody in HR that nobody wants to go talk to.
Yeah, that's a red flag right there.
Exactly. But and so I said to the supervisor, and I said that example. I can see how you have been able to figure out to work with Elaine. However, the for the greater good of the organization, you are holding the company back by being complacent and tolerating this. You're
So
gonna
it's
have to deal
interesting. I
with
see this
this.
a lot. And one of the things that happens, and tell me if you see this as well. So one person finds the workarounds. That's like, oh,
Yeah,
well, I won't ask her for this. I'll only ask her for this, or I'll ask just
right.
this way, or I only ask on Tuesdays, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then what they're also doing is they're forcing everyone else to find workarounds like this.
Yes.
You can't just ask for what you need in the day that you need it.
Yeah.
And
You can't
um,
run a company like that. I mean, you just can't. You can't grow. You can't run a company. You can't expand. You can't anything. Like that's just
you're busy walking on eggshells to make sure you got all the right
yeah.
balance
Yeah.
um and at the end of the day, what I see is that person knows in their heart that they're not
Of course.
right seat. And so they're not thriving. Their
Yeah.
career certainly doesn't have the same trajectory as it would if they were thriving in a role. They totally got it. They wanted it. It was fun. And they had the capacity to thrive. So not only are they holding the company back, not providing probably the same level of service and focus on customers, but their own personal lives are hindered. And when they go home from an engagement perspective,
Yeah.
that person in that seat has less energy for their family, their physical well-being, their
Yep.
faith, their community, their kids. There's just less to go around. And
Very
that
true.
is why this mantra of right people, right seats is so important to me personally and has been for
Yeah.
almost 20 years. It's what I do because it affects everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And going back to our title today, right? Growth is a team sport, right there. Right there. Yeah.
And I think that courage of, I think I may not be well suited here is terrifying,
Yeah.
especially in a job market where we went from, I'm helping clients find team members. 2 years ago, we might have had 5 candidates. today we might have 200. And
Wow.
so that's even more scary. And I think the quiet quitting in some ways is even more incentivized because people look around and they're like, I know several people that aren't working right now.
Yeah.
And so I think, as you were just saying, it puts the onus on the supervisor, the manager, to not tolerate it, to say, here are my expectations.
Yeah.
This is what I need to happen. Otherwise, there will be consequences.
Yeah.
And people
Yeah.
get to choose to either level up or leave. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the hard truth, but we're not in business to pay people. We're in business to make an impact, whether that's socially, these are nonprofits or for-profit businesses.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why I like to show every seat in the organization, every person, I like them to see the value and the impact that they make in the seat that they're sitting in towards the greater good of the organization as a whole. I think when you can bring awareness to that, that helps to change.
Okay, I'm just like listening and absorbing all of this and bringing examples. So yesterday, in our local summer school program, I'm teaching a course on entrepreneurship. And there's a
Okay.
little boy who comes into, he's going into sixth grade and he's wearing a Buc-ee's t-shirt. Do you know Buc-ee's?
Oh yeah, I do.
Oh my gosh. So we're in California. Buc-ee's is like Texas,
Texas.
Oklahoma,
Yeah.
Midwest. And
Ah,
he's got this huge Buc-ee logo on his
yeah.
shirt. Oh my gosh, Zach, Buc-ee's is my place. I love Buc-ee's. And I was thinking about what you're saying about every employee making an impact. There was a day I walked into a Buc-ee's. Now, if you don't, for not familiar with Buc-ee's, this is the Nordstrom of gas stations. It is
Yeah.
the most beautiful, clean, amazing facility with all the best snacks and great gifts. I have multiple pieces of artwork in my home that came from this gas station. Like they're one of my dream clients.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about the impact that I walked into a bathroom one day and there was a person on their hands and knees scrubbing the grout with a, industrial toothbrush effectively in these pristine bathrooms. And every Buc-ee's employee just seems so happy to be there. So every checker, everybody at the deli, and that impact is why, I mean, I've been traveling in Europe and seen people in Buc-ee's t-shirts because it's this,
Yeah.
everybody has a role to play. And when you get that and that bug bites you as an employee, it's so
Yeah.
much more fun to come to work. And it's so much easier to engage and offer that discretionary effort
Yeah.
because you're providing value. So I
Yeah.
love the Outgrow that's really that process that helps extract and then wait, I'm gonna get the right word, extract and
Use.
infuse
Yeah.
into every employee that's on the team and wearing the jerseys so that we can have something other than a siloed sales who then hands off and
Right.
goes to the next.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's you start to, avoid the confrontation. Sales always has a confrontation with marketing, right? Oh, I can't sell because marketing's not doing their job. And marketing is like, no, we could actually market better if sales would cooperate with us. So
And then
we
God
get
forbid there's the piece where a sales sells something that operations says we can't deliver. So we make it
exactly. Yeah.
a little,
Exactly.
a little clear on what we're already doing well and can do more of that. I think it leads to a lot less of the desperation selling where I'm just trying to sell anything I can
Right.
get them to say yes to
Yeah.
because I'm getting better at selling what people are already in love with
Right. Yeah.
and what we know we can make an impact for.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, anything else we really need to cover? I've got some notes on some of the key takeaways, but is there anything you think we really missed in this discussion about growth being a team sport?
I think we covered a lot.
This
Have
is
we
a
covered a
lot. I
lot?
think we could have probably done, I'm sure you've got like a 7-day training that could make us all wildly successful, but I don't think that's why. This at least is a taste of where
Yeah.
that might take
Yeah.
us. So as I think about tips and tricks, Amy, that might be useful to people, one of the things I wrote down was that all of our people know about and understand the value of all of our products and services
Yes.
being a core baseline. Um, a mentality note about fear is often the thing that holds people back, that we
Mhm.
can't outsell. I love the way you said it. We can't outsell a fearful mindset.
Yeah.
So finding a way to work through that by understanding the value of every individual who's participating and the value of our products and services in the marketplace to our favorite customers.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, any corrections here? Did I
I
misstate
would
any of
say a
these?
fearful mindset and a negative mindset, right?
Okay.
Both of those things.
Ooh, and in this marketplace, that can be a real thing. It's like, oh, a
Yeah.
lot of spending is shut off, so we couldn't possibly sell.
Yeah.
Working past that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then asking your best clients what value the company is bringing, sharing and infusing that impact with the team so that we can bolster their confidence is one of the direct ways to get around some of that fearful mindset.
Yes.
Okay. What did I miss? These are really great tips
You
that,
captured some great notes there, Mel.
well, thank you for sharing your insights and some of the work that you're doing with clients. It's such a pleasure always to speak with you, Amy. How can people get a hold of you if that is something that they want to do?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn, Amy Morin. I'm on LinkedIn, and also email, right? Amy.Morin at EOS Worldwide or Amy.Morin at runoutgrow.com. So both of those places. And I'd love to connect on this further.
Amazing. Well, I'm your host, Melissa Ortiz. You can contact me same way. LinkedIn is great. Email is great. My email is mortiz at activatehcg, like humancapitalgroup.com. And I look forward to seeing you on a future podcast or connecting you with you in other ways. Thanks so much for your time, Amy. Well, that's a wrap on this episode of You've Got People Problems. If you got something out of the conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with the other leaders in your network because let's face it, we all have people problems. You can watch full episodes on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast app. But either way, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.